let's move into our fourth and final main topic today. And our fourth and final main topic today gets submitted to us by David Hoffman, who writes, "Hello, John and company. According to Deadline, Captain Marvel has found its director, yes, they have, in Candyman's Nia DaCosta. What do you think of this choice? Do you think she is a good fit? Thanks, and keep bringing the filthy." All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, David. And yeah, listen, one of the films that, you know, Kevin Feige has clearly indicated they're looking at, they're going to do, it's absolutely set in stone, but we haven't heard a lot of movement on, is Captain Marvel 2. Now, you got to keep in mind, Captain Marvel 2 was inevitable. It was going to come. It's one of the bigger hits in the last couple of years, made $1.1 something billion at the box office, which was crazy. I quite enjoyed Captain Marvel, not in my top half of favorite Marvel films, to be honest, but still one that I really quite enjoyed. I liked it, just not a top shelf Marvel film for me, but it has a lot of open doors of where they can go. I think Brie Larson's an Academy Award winning actress, all that kind of stuff. They've got the screenplay has been written. So the screenplay is done. The question has been who's going to direct it. Now you got to keep in mind that aside from, say, James Gunn or the Russos, Marvel likes to change the directors in the individual franchises. They switch directors in Iron Man. They switch directors in Captain America. They switch directors. What was the other one I was just thinking about? They switched directors with Thor. Like they went from Kenneth Branagh, the first one. They switched that one too. So it's not a big surprise that they decided to switch up directors for Captain Marvel. In this case, they went with Nia DaCosta. Now, Nia DaCosta is interesting because first of all, obviously, I haven't seen Candyman yet. I did watch another feature she did. I think it was her first feature called Little Woods.
Her first.
That she did with Lily James. Lily James. And
Tessa Thompson.
Yes, Tessa Thompson, which wasn't great, but I enjoyed it. Like, I liked it. And it showed what she could do with a small budget and just telling a story and a narrative story and working with higher caliber actors. Liked it. Obviously, Jordan Peele and others liked her so much, they gave her the Candyman reboot. And apparently the studio liked what she did with the Candyman reboot because now she's landed a Captain Marvel gig. So to me and for me, there's not a big enough sample size for me to sit here and say, oh my God, this is a great selection, or I really don't see this one. I just don't have a big enough sample size. I thought Little Woods was a decent little film for what it was. I haven't seen Candyman yet, so come back and ask me again what I think about her being selected once I've seen Candyman. Clearly they were impressed. Clearly they like what they saw and they gave it to her. So I am, as far as how do I feel about Nia DaCosta getting this gig, I'm agnostic about it, right? Because again, I just don't have a big enough sample size. But I trust Kevin Feige. He seems to know how to fit the right directors that get his vision. Unlike Kathleen Kennedy working with her directors in Star Wars, Kevin Feige seems to know how to pick the right directors who are in total sync with what his vision is, and he understands what they want to bring to the table. So, hey, I give Kevin Feige the benefit of the doubt. Aaron, I don't know if you've had a chance to see Little Woods. I know you haven't seen Candyman yet, but what do you think about this selection of Nia DaCosta to do Captain Marvel 2?
Ooh, I'm so excited. And here's why I'm excited. There has been, there is a history of horror film directors making the transition to doing these superhero directors.
True, yeah.
We have Sam Raimi with Spider-Man. We have, obviously Sam Raimi has a plethora of horror films. We have Scott Derrickson, James Wan. There's a whole list of these directors who have made the transition from horror to superhero, maybe back to horror, back and forth. And so I think that Nia DaCosta's experience with Candyman, I mean, obviously the studio is seeing something that we are not. And so, and I also have a great amount of respect for Jordan Peele. I think not only is he an impeccable storyteller, but also he has a really good eye, not only for talent in front of the camera, but for having his finger on the pulse of who else is out there that maybe is not yet on the studio's radar. So I love the fact that Jordan Peele really went to bat for her. And, and I think that this is very telling of what they are seeing. I have not had a chance to see Little Woods, but it's on my list for this weekend of movies that I want to go back and check out. But I think think that this is one of those scenarios where there's so many people who are in the know of what's going on with Candyman, her how she works as a director, that are really rooting for her. And like I said, given her background in storytelling in the world of horror, and as we've seen so many horror directors making that transition, what I'm looking forward to in Captain Marvel 2 from Nia DaCosta is seeing even more character development and even more of her of her story as a person. The person side of the human side of her coming out, and I just think this is really exciting. I can't wait to see Candyman, even though I'm not huge on watching horror films. I'm really looking forward to seeing it, because clearly she gave them something in Candyman that made them go, this is our person, this is our director. So I'm really looking forward to it, and congratulations to her for being invited into the club.
You know what? You brought up a great point that I haven't even really considered. We are starting to see this emerging pattern of horror directors being able to make that transition and bring that sense. Because, look, and that makes perfect sense to me, because now that I think about it, we always talk about how movies are experiential events, right? You need to deliver that experience. If you're doing a comedy, make me laugh. If you're doing like a dramatic thing, make me feel. If you're doing a horror, make me scared. And I think when you're dealing with like comedy, horror is one of those ones where the experiences have to be right on your sleeve, right? You deliver that experience on a very on the sleeve, right up at the surface level to bring that. And I think there's a lot of similarities with that with comic book films, where you're trying to deliver a similar type of experience, just a little bit different from the horror one to that. And maybe that's, and Derrickson obviously making the transition from all the horror he's done into Doctor Strange, which I thought was a great transition. Mm-hmm. James Wan was a great example of that. The Sam Raimi one is a great example of that. I love that comparison. I hadn't even thought about it. You know what? You just made me a little bit more excited about her directing this film.
Wow, wonderful.
I've only seen one movie of hers, not a big enough sample size, but I love that comparison you just made. So
and also think about like the action, in every horror film, there's gotta be, you have to be able to figure out, action has to be woven in as if it's a symphony. You can't just all of a sudden, hit somebody over the head with it. It really it has, in every action scene, it has that arc of how that's going to be created. And so those action scenes in horror, whether it's a chase scene or building up to an attack, those things also lend themselves to being able to do an action scene in a superhero film. I feel like it's kind of along a similar wavelength. So that kind of gives me a little more, but I'm really glad that I could make you more excited about this film. My day is complete.
And the last time I had a MCU director that I really didn't have enough personal of a sample size of them was Peyton Reed, when he came on and did Ant-Man. Mm-hmm. And I ended up loving Ant-Man. Like again, it's just Kevin Feige. And again, when the Russo brothers were brought in to do Captain America Civil War, everybody's like, wait, the You, Me, and Dupree guys?
Right.
But Kevin Feige just knows when he's got a director or set of directors in front of him that understand and get on the same wavelength with him and understand his vision, and he sees what uniqueness they can bring to it and matching that up. And there haven't really been, maybe Thor Dark World was a little bit of a drop of the ball there, but other than that, he's always synced up perfectly with his directors, and maybe that could work in this film's favor a lot. Question is for you guys, what do you think about Nia being selected to direct the Captain Marvel sequel? Again, if maybe you're like me, you probably are like me, don't have a lot of a sample size, but what are your thoughts on this overall? Jump down to the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. All right, guys.